Hi, my name is Christopher Sheffield, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to be a good director. Like any good question in art, the answer is going to be very subjective. Some of you might not agree with me, which is excellent. In fact, if you don't agree with me, I actually encourage you to leave a comment on the YouTube video and kind of get a dialogue going, because these videos are all about teaching and dialogue. So, how to be a good director. So there are a couple elements that go into this. I'm gonna try to break it down in a way that makes it easily digestible for somebody who is either first starting out or even someone who's got a couple films in and maybe kind of lost their groove and just needs a little refresher. Step one, to understand how a film set works, think of every department as like a gear on a clock, right? And all of these gears have to turn in unison to make sure that the clock is on time. The director is the one who tells the time. Does that make sense? Let me break it down another way. Every major department has their job. They have their specialty that they have to know. The electric has to understand the lights and the wattage. The grips have to understand rigging all across the board. Wardrobe department is on top of wardrobe, etc., etc. So what does the director do? The director's specialty, above everything else on set, above every other job, the director has to be a storyteller. Now that might seem obvious to you. You might hear that and say, yeah, duh, he's telling a movie, he's telling a story, of course he's a storyteller. Surprisingly, it's not as obvious as you might think. For instance, I know a lot of people that I've talked to, especially out here in LA, that say they want to direct, but they don't know how. Or they have this vision for a film, and they say they would love to direct it, but they're just not experienced enough. Which, I can see an argument for that, but a director's main job, the one thing a director needs to know above everything else, is storytelling. And more importantly than that, they have to know their story. You have to know your own story. And you have to know your story better than anybody else on set. And here's the reason. On set, because there are multiple departments, the heads of those individual departments are experts. They are experts in their individual fields, which means that they have done their jobs for a long time and they have options. Okay, so as an example scenario, say I'm directing a scene, and let's say it's a simple scene. Let's say it's two characters sitting down at a table having a discussion. Seems simple enough, right? If I have a full set of department heads with me, they're gonna have a ton of options. My cinematographer is gonna have a whole set of lenses that I can choose from and an unlimited amount of angles. My wardrobe department, assuming this hasn't been hashed out in pre-production, is going to have options on the day for me to choose what I want them to wear, how I want them to wear those options. My actors, although through rehearsal and table reads are going to have prior discussion about how to read these lines, are still going to have options for me. The point is, every major department head is going to have a ton of options about how something can be done. Your job as the director is to pick one. Pick one every single scene. You have to make this decision. What are there, over 100 scenes in any given film. You have to make this decision over 100 times throughout the course of a film with every single department. And your answers have to be absolute. There can be no maybe. There can be no on the day we'll figure it out, because you have to know your story. And all of these different options tell a different story. But you have one. You have one consistent story, one through line, one major plot that you are adhering to. So your job as the director is to take all of these different gears and make sure they're all telling the same time. See, now it makes sense. If you are a lawyer and tomorrow you decide you want to make a film about lawyers and you have the story and you know exactly what these people do and why they do it, then I can be your cinematographer and I can shoot your film without you ever having stepped on a film set before, because your production team is going to do the scheduling. Your AD is going to run that set for you. Your DP is going to set up all of your shots. But what we need to know from you is, what is your story? How can all of our individual positions accommodate your story? If a character has something about them that you want to come across, but you don't want to be hammy and have the character say it on set, tell that to your wardrobe department. Watch the cool things that they come up with in the wardrobe that sort of convey those ideas. If you want to express the state of a character's thoughts or his mind before ever seeing the actor, talk to your art department. Watch the way that they set up his or her home to accommodate for that story element that you know because you are the director. Quick little side note, if you do want to direct in the future, I would highly suggest becoming a PA. Here's why. Because as a PA, you are in the center of all those other gears, accommodating every other gear with all of their needs. And it's an excellent opportunity for you to hang out at Video Village and listen to the director and the producers and the DP discuss things and figure out why they do the things that they do. It's a great chance for you to talk to the grip and the electric department and figure out what they hate, what decisions the director makes that directly impact their jobs and make their jobs harder. How can you make better decisions and thereby have a better team? Which leads me into my next section. To be a director, you have to be a leader. You have to be the captain of the ship. Because if the ship is doing well or if it's going down, it is because of you. You are the ultimate authority on whether or not that set is a success. A lot of that starts with your bearing. A lot of that starts with how you act on set, how you interact with the different departments. One, Nobody on set owes you anything. In fact, if they are doing an excellent job to convey your ideas, or they are just putting in the work to try to figure out what it is you want, then honestly, you kind of owe them. So be nice. Be nice to everybody on set, but be authoritative, obviously, because you don't want anybody to run over the top of your ideas. This is, after all, your film. Set etiquette is huge, especially for a director. Be appreciative of everyone's efforts because it will in turn make them appreciative of you. On set, there is a very distinct hierarchy. And on a professional run set, that hierarchy is not crossed on any level. It's all about specialization. It's all about picking the right people for the right jobs and making sure they stay in those departments. But that being said, there is a hierarchy of control so that a set doesn't turn into a bunch of talking heads. You are at the top of that hierarchy. If you are adhering to set etiquette, you're talking to everybody on a personal level, you're making friends, you're being a good person, you're being polite, they're going to love you, and they're going to love that they can have that relationship with somebody who is on set effectively as their boss and their leader in this artistic endeavor. Here's another element to being a director that might seem a little silly to some of you, but it's something that I hear a lot from people who are either successful working directors or people who are trying to become directors, and that is difficulty talking to actors. Here's the deal. Actors are like any other professional on set. They are the professional in their department. Their department is performance. Their department is becoming somebody else when the camera is rolling. Much like every other major department head, they're going to have an instinct that they follow. They might not ask you questions for every element of their performance because their instinct fills in a lot of those blanks. They're also going to have options. Just like a DP has a set of lenses, they have a set of tools. And any one of those decisions on screen could drastically complement or shift your story. But like everybody else on set, an actor just wants to make something good. They want to touch the same audience that you do. When you guys step on set together, you are on the same team immediately. That's it. There should be no conflict. Should there be discussion? Absolutely, there should be discussion. In fact, you should welcome discussion. If an actor says to you, I don't understand this, help me understand this, help them understand it. It's your job as a director to know your story. So you should know the reason why the character says these things and what that does to the character and what that does to the audience watching the character. These are all things that you should know because this is your story after all. That being said, this is the actor representing something. They want to care about what they say. An actor doesn't want to just read off a script on screen. An actor doesn't want to be line read. Huge no-no, by the way. Don't ever sit there and tell an actor exactly how to read a line unless they specifically ask for it, which they hardly ever will because it's obnoxious. So the way you would talk to an actor is the same way you would talk to any other department head on set. You tell them what you want and you trust them as professionals to deliver that. If I'm directing a scene and a character stands up and the DP has the camera pan up with the character, maybe I don't want that. So on the next take, I'm going to ask the DP to keep the camera low so that I can see what's in the actor's hand. Same thing for an actor. If an actor makes a decision that doesn't convey the things you want it to in your story, then talk to them. Tell them. Because of course their natural inclination is going to be to follow their instincts like any other artistic professional. You have to explain to them why this decision does this to your story, which conveys this to the audience. That is your job as a director. So to recap, what makes a good director? You have to know your story better than anybody else on set. You have to convey a sense of leadership and positive camaraderie with every other department so that you're all working in unison. You have to be able to interact and work alongside your actors to convey the best story possible. All of that, in my opinion, is what makes a good director.